Why your brain cannot tell real versus fake fear. Imagine you're being chased. Your heart is pounding, your palms are sweating, your vision narrows to a tunnel. Now, what if I told you your brain literally cannot tell whether you're running from a bear or just watching one on Netflix? This isn't a metaphor. Neuroimaging studies show your amygdala fires almost identically whether a threat is real or fictional. And that single biological glitch explains everything from anxiety disorders to why horror movies are a billion-dollar industry. Last episode, we talked about why dolls make your brain panic even when you know they're harmless. That was one example of this glitch in action. Today, we go deeper into the core of how your brain processes every threat it has ever encountered, real or not. Your brain has two fear systems running at the same time. The first is fast. It's driven by the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in the brain that processes threats before your conscious mind even registers them. It doesn't think, it reacts. The second system is slower, the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain that evaluates information and tells you whether the threat is real. The problem is the amygdala almost always fires first. By the time your prefrontal cortex catches up and says it's just a movie, your heart is already pounding, you've already flinched, you've already gasped. The reaction happened before the thought. This isn't a flaw, it's a survival feature. For most of human history, waiting to think before reacting to a threat could get you killed. The amygdala evolved to act first and ask questions later. The cost of a false alarm, being scared of something harmless, was always lower than the cost of missing a real threat. A rustle in the bushes that turned out to be the wind cost you nothing. A rustle you ignored that turned out to be a predator cost you everything. Your brain chose caution every single time, and it still does. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux, who spent decades mapping the fear circuitry of the brain, called this the low road, a direct neural pathway from sensory input to the amygdala that bypasses rational processing entirely. There is also a high road, the slower route through the cortex that allows for evaluation and context. But the low road is faster, always. When you flinch at a jump scare before you even see what caused it, that's LeDoux's low road in action. Your body responded before your brain finished processing the image. Think about the chest burster scene in Alien, or the lawnmower scene in Sinister, or the opening of Hereditary, where something moves in the shadows of the corner. These scenes are engineered specifically to hijack the low road. Filmmakers use sound design, timing, and visual misdirection to feed your amygdala exactly the kind of incomplete, ambiguous information it finds most threatening. The moment your brain can't fully process what it's seeing, the moment something moves that shouldn't, the amygdala fires. It doesn't wait for confirmation. It assumes the worst and acts immediately. The Conjuring uses this with devastating precision. The clapping game scene works not because of what you see, but because of what you don't see. Your brain fills the darkness with threat. The buildup, the slow, oppressive quiet, primes your amygdala into a state of heightened alertness. By the time the scare lands, your threat detection system is already running at maximum sensitivity. It doesn't matter that you're sitting safely on your couch. Your body doesn't know that. Functional MRI studies back all of this up. Research shows that when participants watched fear-inducing film clips, their amygdala activity was nearly identical whether the threat was real or fictional. The brain doesn't have a "this is pretend" filter at the subcortical level. It processes the emotional signal first. The logical context comes second, if at all. This is why you can watch a film for the second or third time, already knowing every scare is coming, and still flinch. The low road doesn't learn from spoilers. It reacts to the signal, regardless of what you consciously know. This is why horror works as an industry. When you watch a character being chased, think the lawnmower scene in Halloween, or the hallway sequence in It Chapter 2, your mirror neuron system activates. You don't just observe fear, you simulate it. Your body produces a measurable stress response. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases, pupils dilate.
A 2012 study from the University of Westminster found that viewers of horror films burned significantly more calories than those watching neutral content because their bodies were genuinely responding to a physical threat that wasn't there. The Shining topped the study's list. Participants watching Kubrick's slow, creeping dread burned an average of 184 calories, more than any other horror film tested. Sustained tension, it turns out, is more physiologically demanding than a quick shock. Personal scenarios follow the same pattern. Think about the last time you woke up from a nightmare. You knew it wasn't real the moment you opened your eyes, but your heart was still racing, your breathing shallow, the feeling of dread hanging in the room even after you turned the light on. That's because during REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex is largely offline. The amygdala runs the show completely, with almost no rational override available. This is why dream fear feels completely indistinguishable from waking fear. The emotion is real, even when the event isn't. Your body processed it as genuine threat and responded accordingly. Anxiety disorders operate on this same mechanism at a chronic level. The amygdala becomes hyper-reactive, firing threat signals in response to situations that carry no genuine danger. A crowded room, a difficult conversation, an unanswered message, a sound in the dark. The prefrontal cortex knows rationally that these aren't threats, but the low road keeps firing anyway. The emotional response arrives before rational evaluation gets a chance. This is why you can't simply think your way out of anxiety. You're not dealing with a logic problem. You're dealing with a circuit that runs beneath logic, one that evolution built to keep you alive, not to keep you calm. What makes this even more fascinating is how consistent it is across people. Your cultural background, your age, your level of education, none of it significantly changes the amygdala's basic threat response. A neuroscientist who spends fear for a living will still flinch at the basement scene in Insidious. A horror director who constructed every scare in a film still reports physiological fear responses when watching other people's work. The knowledge doesn't override the circuit. The circuit runs whether you want it to or not. So the next time a horror film makes you cover your eyes, or the dead silence in a quiet place makes your shoulders climb towards your ears, or a nightmare leaves you shaken for the rest of the morning, your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. It just hasn't caught up with the fact that the world changed faster than evolution did. Screens and stories and shadows are not predators, but your amygdala didn't get that memo, and it probably never will. The fear is real. The threat doesn't have to be. Tell me in the comments, what's the movie scene that got you the most, even when you knew it was coming? Drop the film and the scene, and let's see what comes up. Next episode, we go further into that gap between what your brain knows and what it feels, and look at the one condition where the fear system is completely missing. There are people who literally cannot feel fear. What their brains reveal changes everything we think we understand about it.